Hi there, thank you so much for clicking the thumbnail and being interested in my work. In this video I share with you my techniques and tips on how I achieve the hair and how it is blended over the skin tone. So be sure to watch it right through to the end, because here and there I'll be slowing things down in real time so you can take a closer look. So let's dive in and take a look. This is where we left it in part 2. Now the first thing I did, really, I'm using these colours, which is a dark green, a warm red and a white, and basically what I'm doing is drawing in the actual hairs over the skin, trying to get that direction and the flow. The reason I'm using green is that when I put the red on, it'll make a browny colour, but not only that, is that if I make a mistake, if I want to move things around, it's so easy to move it because you can make that into a flesh colour again so easily, where if you went in with brown, it just makes it that little bit more difficult to change it, because what I'm trying to do is use the elements I've used in the skin, which is green, red, also yellow ochre, but in this instance it's just green and red. So if I'm using those elements, I can easily mix it in with the skin again. So if the hairline is not quite right, I can move it and it becomes skin tone. Now I'm hardly putting any pressure at all on this pencil. I'm holding the pencil quite away from the point, if you see, because that keeps it quite loose. Rather than trying to put every little detail, I'm trying to make it loose and flowing. So that's a good tip to do, is just to hold the pencil far away from the point. But basically I'm just going around, just getting an idea of where things are and building it up slowly. Just skipping through quickly. Once I've explained to you what I've done on that process, I'll just skip through quite quick. No good keep repeating myself, and what this will do is give me more time then to show you real time on the other stages. Here's the colours I'll be using for the next step, which is to actually start darkening areas and for the really deep dark shadows, which I'll explain to you in detail. Right, using the white here just to place the light areas, what shines through the hair, because the hair glistens, so you always need to put that little bit of light in first, I feel, and then glaze over the top, and that white shines through then. But before I do that, what I'm doing here is using the warm red now over the green. Now will that create now like a browny red colour? Right, just a close-up view now. I'm using the yellow ochre to create that skin underneath the hair and let it join together. So I'm using the white to find the directions of the hairs as well, and using those pencils, the dark green, red, white and yellow ochre, you can actually manipulate all these different shapes and it looks quite natural once it's finished. So it's just a case of layer after layer, but I'm putting a very little pressure on there because I want to build up this subtleties rather than digging in with a pencil and trying to get that real darkness. I'll build it up slowly. If you're finding value in this video, why not subscribe? It's absolutely free, and then you're sure not to miss any of my future videos. Right, here we are in real time, just showing you just basically how I get the structure of the underdrawing. Just basically using the white to get the direction of the hairs. Now I suggest getting as close as you can to the reference. It don't have to be exactly the same, but if you get a pattern, this will keep you relaxed and focused then, because if you actually just go randomly with the marks, you'll tend to get lost, and then this will create a little bit of a panic because you're really not really knowing where to put the actual colours and the subtleties. So I suggest just getting it accurate as you can, and then it makes it a lot easier then when you're doing these complicated areas. If you would like to support my art and would like to see longer, slower and more in-depth videos, please join me on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Now you notice it's grainy at this point, so now it's time to try and soften things and darken certain areas to get the values right within the hair. So I'm using the brown now, and what I'll be doing then is just refining the structure of the hair, measuring, comparing with the reference image on a vertical plane, and just to make sure everything's in the correct alignment first before you start putting the colours on, the richer colours, and getting that subtleties. There's no point putting all that time involved in doing something if the actual drawing's not correct. So it's always best to just double check, make sure everything's in the correct place first before you start going in there with the darker colours. So what I'm using here is brown, purpley blue and the cold red, which is like Elysium crimson, mixing that together, and you can see it really creates depth. Right, I'm just going to show you a closer look at the colours I'm using here. Because it's a bunch there, so I've done it separately so you can see the dark colours there. Mainly the yellows here with a red and a green, you can see there. And here's the reds together. Right, here's some more real time for you, just to explain or just to show you how I get the depth within the black. So when you put the black on its own, it tends to look a little bit dark and dull, no life in it. But as soon as you start putting colours into it, other colours, here I'm just using 2 reds with the black. Maybe later on I'll put a bit of blue in there and brown. But at the moment, even with just putting the red in there and using black, you can see it just throws it right back and gives it depth. So it's worth experimenting, adding colour with black, just to make sure you get that sort of feeling of depth rather than it just looking a bit flat. Now the areas between the flesh tones and the hair, what I'm using here is a pre-mixed pencil from Caran. I would say it's like a yellow ochre, bit of warm red in there and white mixed as a pencil colour. If you haven't got that colour, just use white and then you can glaze over with the red and yellow ochre again. But this saves time. If you've got a pencil which is a similar colour, use it, I always say, and then just can subtle it up later. So what I'm doing here is just trying to soften the hair now a little bit because it is a little grainy. So how I'm doing that is just using pencil over pencil. I'm not using like a blending tool or anything, I'm just using pencil over pencil and then just keep going over until it feels correct. Maybe use my finger here and there just to dab it. But just glazing over the colours you've done underneath, and then it's just a case of just building up step by step. And once you're happy with how it feels, just go over them with the white again, and then you glaze again, so it's white. The white will make it as well blend in. I'm using a CarbOthello white here, which is a chalkier white, and that helps to sort of blend the colours, so you can use that very subtly. If you're enjoying this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. It would mean so much to me, as this would help the channel to grow. For me, the most important factor is to let go of the mind, open the heart, send open heart energy to the image, and you'll be surprised how much more energy will come back at you. And this energy will flow through you out of the hands if you relax. The more you let go of the mind, the more things will just happen by themselves. And you'll finish, when you finish your drawing, you think, wow, how did that happen? You know, I can't even remember doing that. And something takes over. It's hard to explain, and it sounds weird, but the more you let go and the more you have faith, things will just develop, and the feeling you get from it and the joy is so amazing. Now here's a close-up view and slowed down video of how I'm using the white to soften up the hairs. It's amazing how this CarbOthello white is. I find it so amazing how it just softens it just right. It's worth having one in your kit, even if you haven't got any CarbOthello. Just buy the white. You can buy them signally. I've got a list of materials in the description below, but it is really good to have in your kit. And then you can just glaze over the top then with the colours again, just get that subtleties. So I'm using the red, warm red and yellow, lemon yellow here, just to get that vibrancy, because in that shadow where the hair is, there's like a very sort of misty shadow feel, and we're using the white, red and yellow combination. It seems to get that feeling to it. Important to keep your pencils sharp as well when you start doing these details. I use a knife, which is the best way I always think to sharpen pastels. So just go with the flow, try and get a rhythm with it, let it flow. Like I say, if you just let go, you'll feel this energy flow. It's a strange sensation, but you'll feel where you need to put the marks and how the flow is. It will just happen. It will just have faith. The more you do this, it's all like anything else, it takes time. So don't get disheartened if you're not getting it straight away. Perseverance is the key. Just keep trying, keep developing. It will come eventually. Right, here's some more close-up footage for you, just to showing you how I'm subtling the hair over the skin. Now you can see that it's almost like rainbow colours, and that's caused with using all these different subtleties, you know, the primary colours all mixing together, and you've got really a mixture of all different colours, purples, blues, greens, yellows, and it's all done by just glazing with the primaries over what you've already done. Really putting light pressure with the pencils here, the browns. I've used the burnt sienna brown and also the burnt umber there, and I'm not pressing on much at all, just scraping it across the top. of the Pastelmat. You have to be quite patient with the technique I use because it does take a while to get the realism you want. It's just persevering and just keep layer after layer after layer, and it does come together eventually. Now for the really highlights there, I used the Caran Ash White as well, because that gives it more vibrance underneath the glazed colours on top. So it's a case of if it looks a bit too flat, use the Caran Ash White, because it seemed to be more rich in pigment, and then the other colours will sort of vibrate more when the glaze is on the top. For longer, slower and more in-depth videos, please join me on Patreon. Link is in the description below. Right, so here you can see me putting this second coat on the hair. You can see the underdrawing underneath, and then the second coat is not a detailed coat, it's just more of a richer version of it and more in depth with colour. And then once you've got that, then you can start to add the final details. So it's like 3 layers if you like: the underdrawing, the rich drawing, and then the details. Now the paper I'm leaning on here is called GLASSINE paper. Now it's special paper that actually helps you not to smudge your work, so when you're leaning on it, it don't cause any problems underneath. Now I've left a link in the description below if you want to find out where you can get some of that from. But it's really great to have in your kit. If you don't use that, you can always use the bob stick, which is a piece of stick with a ball on the end of it, and just lean on that. But I tend to use this GLASSINE paper when I'm doing fine details over what I've already done. Now for the fine details, I'm using like a pre-mixed yellow ochre, then just doing very light wisps of hair, or just pure yellow ochre, and then just glaze over the top. Because it's important to do flyaway hair when you do hair, so make it more realistic, little wisps. And some of these hairs just got a little point of highlight, just put in little bits of these here and there. It makes the picture look like it's really detailed, but it's actually just suggestion of marks. But you see, when you just start putting these little glints here and there, just the eye fills in the gaps, and the eye thinks it's really detailed, but it's actually quite just suggested. Now I've just put a bit of background colour in there first, just before I put the actual wisps of hair going out over the background. And again, very slight movements with the pencil, not too heavy, just scraping across the top. And just get that flow, the feeling of it. Just let yourself go and just go with the movement of it. Here's the portrait at the correct angle, so you can see it as I saw it instead of being in perspective on the easel. Thank you for watching the video right through to the end. If you found value in it and you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Appreciate it, would help the channel. Leave a comment and a message in the comments below. Let me know what sort of videos you want me to produce. I've actually left a couple of links here for you to click on, and to subscribe, click on the circle here. It's absolutely free, and then you're sure not to miss any of my future videos. Thank you so much, take care, and be well.